Hello, hello. Hopefully my mic is picking up good. I had to change my mic settings a few nights ago, so I'm not sure if I'm coming through good. Though it's been a while since I've streamed the game where my audio was cut out for like half a stream. But that's mostly because I don't stream lately. Oh, it looks like it's spiking on my thing. Let me just move it a little bit away from me. Maybe that's better. Let's get into some Pokeymanz. I think I left off around like page 50 or 60. I'm gonna skim through some of it, and then I might go back if I have time to look over some things I missed. But really, I'm just trying to get familiar with the material because I do want to run the system soon with a few friends, and it's very exciting. Regarding our setup in Roll20, because the character sheets look outstanding. I've also managed to get gens 1 to 3. No, 1 through 4, not 1 through 3. Prepared. As in like the base artwork for the tokens and stuff like that. So this is what I ultimately decided to go with. These kind of tokens that I used, that I put together in Photoshop, using largely Pearl 7's artwork. And a lot of the tokens look pretty great. And we got 4 gens completely done, ready, looking smooth, looking nice for when we run the game. I want to say it took me about a week and a half maybe to bust out all these in Photoshop. Well, I use Pixlr, but a lot of people don't know what Pixlr is, so I say Photoshop. It looks so good. I'm used to using tokens because of D&D. Obviously, we won't be tracking like movements and everything, but we'll have the visuals down. Then the rest of it's going to mostly be RP descriptions and the mechanics. Classic theater of the mind, but we actually have like the visuals, so it's a mix, but not so much tactical that it matters where your token is on the map and stuff. Just I'm a very visual person, so I like providing visuals. Man, a lot of Pearl 7's work is so good. It's so good. I like her artwork because the Pokemon are typically doing something, not just like standing around. There's a little bit extra to each of the pieces. Like they're taking on some type of activity, or they're performing a particular attack of theirs, etc. But we're not here to look at all the wonderful tokens. We're here to look at Pokeymanz. I want to say we're up to like maybe 50, 60, 70. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, I remember covering advancements, XP, which is all very interesting. Learn to move new moves, disobedience. Okay, I got further than I thought. That was on page 50, but it looks like I got way further. Actually, I might have been on page 50 the second stream. You'd think I would look this up before I started streaming, but I gotta get my daughter in about 40 minutes, so I want it to be as fast as possible, so I had time to stream as long as possible. She's coming out of school in about an hour or so. Okay, I think I'm over here. If not, then we're just gonna reiterate stuff that we already checked out. Cause I remember kind of resolving how to catch Pokemon, the catcher rate, and all that other stuff. All right, are we interested in covering Pokemon contests today? I'll cover it. I want to see if a player wants to do contests before I get too deep into it. So I think since I am going to talk to my players tonight, I'm gonna get a feel for what they want out of the game before I review stuff that I might not need to use, even if it exists in the world, in the setting, in the backdrop. Maybe they go and watch a contest, but we don't need mechanics because this is just NPCs, so it's more like me describing a short story or show. I don't know. I feel like people are 50-50 on whether they like contests or not. Most people are in it for battles and catching and stuff like that. Alright, we'll start here with the Pokemon eggs. It just appeared one day. We were taking care of your Pokemon and... What is that, like an Electabuzz or Electkid, I guess? And then obviously like a Togepi. No one's quite sure how it happens, but from time to time when Pokemon gather together, eggs appear. Yeah, they have 6. Those eggs can be taken care of and hatched by trainers and their Pokemon. Since games series staples like IVs aren't a factor in Pokeymanz, Pokemon breeding and a complicated series of subsystems to support it isn't necessary. Since one of the goals of Pokemon is to create a system where all Pokemon have the chance to be equally useful, a complicated breeding system for creating the Ubermon is something that's best left to individual groups if they desire it. However, hatching Pokemon eggs can be fun and rewarding for anyone. I agree. I also could see it being a really great reward. Maybe what's inside isn't obvious either, because in the games, they all had the same egg, right? For the most part. It could be a fun reward, like you find a Pokemon egg, holy crap, what's in it? We gotta take care of it. So I'm already on board with it being kind of a reward or something that people might want to like to the mystery of it all. And I'm also okay with them potentially breeding and all that other stuff. I'm just thinking about how I could immediately implement it into the game in a way that feels very exciting, and who doesn't love finding a mysterious egg and wondering what the hell's gonna hatch, right? Acquiring Pokemon eggs. Maybe I should have read this first. What if it's like, hey, don't do that? But I doubt it. Acquiring a Pokemon egg could happen in many ways. An egg could be entrusted to a trainer by a Pokemon professor, or the steward of a Pokemon daycare, where eggs often pop up for mysterious reasons. Ooh. A trainer could be given an egg to take care of by the wild Pokemon in dire circumstances, or simply because they believe that their egg may be happy and stimulated with a human companion. A trainer may even find their callings or make a living in hatching eggs for others. Ooh, I really like that. It'd be cool to see Pokemon breeders and stuff like Brock and things. A player may or may not know what species of Pokemon is bound to hatch from their egg. It depends on how they received it and what kind of information is available to them. A GM may pick a species in secret to surprise a player, which I definitely want to do. Pokemon egg takes up 1 slot in the trainer's party. Nice. Let's see here. Incubation. One thing is clear about the care of Pokemon eggs. They require proximity to other Pokemon, particularly Pokemon that are actively putting their abilities to use to hatch. A Pokemon egg can be treated with a certain amount of care, but unlike eggs in our own world, it is hardy enough to take a tumble every now and then. So no scrambled eggs, or scrambled eggs very rarely. That said, GMs and players are incredibly discouraged from setting up situations where eggs come to genuine physical harm. We've all seen a Pokemon episode where an egg was at risk, so definitely something rare. Could be interesting, and could be a big moment for a breeder to recover, protect, and make sure that that egg is delivered. That was one of those things where you ask player for buy-in because maybe they're not really comfortable with the concept of an egg being destroyed. Not that that would be the result if they fail, but the concept of it could either be attractive or unattractive. An egg should take a while to hatch, usually a few episodes. The GM is the final arbiter of when a Pokemon will hatch from its eggs, though a player has input to the process as well. During this time, the trainer may direct Pokemon XP to the unhatched egg, which will be applied when the egg hatches. Eggs react well to the stimulus of being around active Pokemon and trainers. And then, like they said, there's certain abilities and things that could help. I would definitely be rewarding players for taking extra care of their eggs. And personally, I like the mystery of receiving an egg and not knowing what's inside of it, which I might even leave up to an entirely random roll or a wish listed mon if they haven't had a chance to encounter something they really wanted. But you don't tell them because you want it to be a surprise. Alright, hatching eggs. When an egg hatches, a Pokemon comes out. The Pokemon in question will always be the first of its evolution line. For the trainer's patience, hatch Pokemon have a few benefits right out the gate. Similar to starter Pokemon, a hatch Pokemon starts with 1 mastery. Any accumulated Pokemon XP will be applied immediately to the Pokemon, however the player chooses. Hatch Pokemon may know an egg move. One move that is normally outside of their moveset will be in their starting moves. This can be any move, even a move not on their in-game egg move list, with common sense exceptions, things like signature legendary Pokemon moves. I don't know how I feel about this, the any move things, like a Squirtle with a flamethrower. I know they said common sense, but when you open that door, the first thing that goes out of it is common sense. But then that's why you work with the players and the GM. So I'm not sure how I'd handle it at my table, if I'd have it be just the extended egg list instead of any move, but we'll see. Hatching may happen at any time, but for some odd reason, it has a tendency to happen during dramatic moments. Pokemon sure are fascinating. It might be a good idea for a GM to communicate this to a player beforehand and give them some of the details to prepare, so as not to grind things to a halt to stat the new Pokemon during a climactic battle. Dude hops out of his egg and instantly gets into a fight. Nice little. Oh my god, look at this. It's more of an art than a science, really. Oh my god. I think those are what, the three original fossil Pokemon? Well, I guess if you count pre-evolutions, it was, 5? But, you know what I mean, like, their final evils and Aerodactyl. Fossils are a staple of the Pokemon game, going right back to the first one. Pokemon DNA apparently much harder than that of their real-world counterparts. Can survive the fossilization process and summarily, I'm having English is not my friend today, be used to realistically clone the long-departed tissue sample. So this is like, you know, in the game, you can just restore fossils. I always really thought that was cool, especially as a kid. I don't know, I processed it different when I was young. Now it seems more odd that they're able to do that. But at the same time, I'm not against the idea. I think it's really cool. Alright, now I'm just wondering if it's just going through the motions of it all. So same thing, you know, they have the egg move treatment, okay. So it's treated like a pseudo form of hatching, just to keep the rules very basic. Carrying around this fossil is not the same as nurturing active bond with an egg. Fossil Pokemon do not start with the bonus mastery that Pokemon hatched from eggs do. Traditionally, a fossil cannot be revived on its own time. Yeah, you gotta take it to like a facility or something. I would absolutely have the players find a fossil at some point. I like growing up when we saw the fossil Pokemon. They are ancient, but I guess what I mean is they felt like legendaries to an extent when I was younger. But there were these unique Pokemon that are to some extent supposedly extinct, but you know, you could just bring them back. So I guess they're not really extinct. But there are a line of Pokemon that don't exist in abundance in the world, right? Making them feel extra special. And from the original game, if I had to rank them, probably Aerodactyl was probably my favorite, but Triceratops is pretty close. He was pretty close. I thought he had a really cool looking design. But in the show, they made Aerodactyl look like such a boss in its original appearance that it was just so cool. Alright, new edge. So we got edges for being a Pokemon breeder. So I'm excited. So originally I thought that the edges weren't like a part of the core game. It was just an additional. But it is a part of the core game. So I'm going to dive into the edges some more. Because everyone wants to be an edgelord. I don't think I have time for that today because I have to get my daughter. But I'm definitely going to be looking into this. Since my game is probably starting in about 2 weeks, I want to say. I got to make sure that I got all this in my mind. Idiot losers, we're going shopping. In the core games, items are kept intentionally vague in narrative, so as not to bog down the system. However, if your group is looking for a little extra something to spice up battles and encounters, adding items is a good way to add another dimension to the game. Add items to your game opens up, just to start, new ways to use trainer attributes, held items to add depth to battles, and resource management for more survival-focused games. I didn't even think about that last part. A survival-focused Pokeymanz game. Huh. You know, I guess I'm gonna have to put them in a cold mountain one day when they might freeze to death. You know, the OG show, it was secretly really dark at times. Like, you know, it's like 10-year-old kid lost in the mountains about to freeze to death. It's crazy, man. You just didn't even think about that type of stuff when you're growing up. You watch the episode for what it was, of course. But, you know, when you get older, you realize, like, wow, that was pretty deep for a kid's show. Which reminds me of some of the modern kid shows that are a little similar in that regard. A show called Troll Hunters. Oh, God, if you have not seen that show is so great. But I see them they be just killing characters left and right. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is the kid show? But that show was pretty awesome. The monies. Everybody gets the monies. Pokédollars don't grow on trees. Most trainers have enough to get by on, but to have enough to spend on extra supplies requires extra effort. Pokeymanz won't keep track of the exact number of Pokédollars that a trainer took from a small kid's lunch money after beating up their single Caterpie. The trainers using this system should record a general money number on their sheet. At the beginning of the journey, a trainer should start with 0 money. A trainer that starts with the always prepared edge should start with 2 money. Money can be acquired in a number of ways. Beating trainers in a battle or contest is one, but an individual character might have a legitimate employment attached to their calling, or even have a job to pay the bills that isn't related to their calling. The trainer should work with the GM to figure out where their money comes from while creating the character. That's cool. Going back to some of the examples I used in previous streams, I could picture this safari worker who's out and about, and whenever he finds an endangered Pokemon, even though fossils exist and they can bring them back to life, whenever you find an endangered Pokemon, maybe one of their jobs is to drop them off at the nearest safari, and they get kind of a bounty or a payment from it. I guess bounty sounds weird because they're doing the opposite of bounty hunter stuff, but what I mean by that is simply from the currency standpoint of that. They're making money by rescuing these animals, or rather Pokemon. Portraying gambling as a reliable way to get nice things when the kids' game was bad and all, but I wish people would give me casino chips to start off. Yeah. I don't even think as a kid I processed that it was like gambling. I'm not sure I knew what gambling was when I played the games when I was 10, especially because growing up in the late 90s, very early 2000s, social media wasn't nowhere near as massive as it is today. So I wasn't as exposed to all the concepts. So I knew I was putting money into the slot machines to do stuff. I knew I was exchanging currency for potential rewards, but it wasn't in my head like today's gacha games and all that stuff, where it's now a core feature versus a fun little side thing. Which kind of makes me sad that that's like, but you know, the world runs on the Pokédollars. Alright, here's a list of non-exhaustive examples. Being a trainer in a Pokemon battle or contest. Capturing a certain threshold of Pokemon for research or other purposes. Submitting an outstanding picture to your magazine's editor. One of my players are already talking about potentially taking a Tracy role, a Pokemon researcher role, which is cool. You know, sketch artists, all that other stuff, photos, pictures. That old Pokemon game where you took photos in it, I forget what that was called. Pokemon Snap, I think it was. Discovering and documenting archaeological findings, delivering important packages of documents, solving an issue or crisis that puts the trainer in line for hazard pay. Noise slow. The pay should be proportionate to the accomplishment. A bug catcher is only going to give the aspiring Pokemon Master their pocket money of 1 money. Whereas triumphing over the admin of an evil team, a story arc achievement might net their considerable 3 money. So I guess to keep it simple, we're using small numbers. I'm a bigger fan of like bigger money values, so that if you are rewarded with 100 Pokédollars, you can spend 2 of those on a sandwich. But when you do have these minimums, I know it's like, well, you just hand wave this stuff. But sometimes, especially when you do RP heavy things, they like to feel like the world is really alive and everything. So they want to go into that place, spend a few bucks on their coffee and their food. At least that's what I've seen in D&D from a different perspective. Is, we're going to get the nice bottle of wine today. We're going to celebrate and throw a feast here. We're going to dump 50 GP, and then maybe I reward them for the relations that makes or provides a contact for them. But this is obviously like tailored towards easy math, right? Because you got to keep everything simple and direct. The main of many systems, how much can one human lug around in a backpack? There's no hard and fast rule, but if GMs want to avoid stockpiling, let trainers hold 8 or so named items in their person at a time. I like that simple rule. They can always store extras in their PC. In fact, someone else's PC. The fact that this means that one person could be carrying around 8 different types of berries, while another could be holding a bike in a tent, a grappling gun, a rusty ancient sword, etc. Don't think about it too hard. Go and touch grass, it'll be okay. Lol. That's reminds me of D&D where people have like 3 sets of plate armor. I have to just tell them, like, I get mechanically you can do that, but sorry buddy, you're leaving 2 at home. End of the day, as long as everyone's kind of on the same page, like, does it make sense? Is it cool? We don't need to get bogged down too much in this type of things. Just don't be the guy carrying around 5 suits of plate armor in your backpack. Types of items. Curatives. Simple, 1 monies. Greater, 2 monies. Pokeballs, 1 money. Oh, there's specialty Pokeballs. I think regular Pokeballs that I mentioned earlier, just being free. Let's see. Only required if the group is using the capture chance optional rule, which I will be using. Specialty Pokeballs like net balls, dust balls that only aid to capture certain circumstances, or perhaps have an effect on how quickly the Pokemon acclimates to the new trainer. What was I gonna say? We've been talking about potential concepts in our game, and one of the players was talking about potentially having like a past he's not too proud of, and maybe an interaction with Pokemons that he didn't really like, that he's trying to redeem himself for. And I had talked to him about Colosseum, Gale of Darkness, how they had like shadow Pokemon. So I think we're going to allude to him having like an old snag machine that's not really operational, but that he has on one of his arms. But instead of him being like the one that was saving those shadow Pokemons, it was to help control and maintain those shadow Pokemons. It's however he wants to tackle it, but it would be cool to have those little Easter eggs in there, kind of to peel back the backstory, to take a peek at it, but not to understand it until the journey itself makes it come to the front, right? And that's going to be awesome. Camps and secret bases. I enjoyed making secret bases. I didn't enjoy the mining stuff as much. I think as a kid we kind of played everything for hours, but as I got older I started liking that stuff less. But I've always been a fan of making like my own apartment in games. And that might be the adult side of me, because I live on my own, so I look at my house, I'm like, oh, I want a picture here, I want a couch here. So yeah. But this is something I will look into more a little later. I want to look at some more of these hard rules that are going to be immediately apparent versus setting up the bases. All right. Where are we? Edges and hindrances changes. Okay. Let's see how this interacts with the edges and hindrances. Since now I know I'm going to be using them, I need to make sure I'm keeping an eye on them. I do like how each of the sections has a little bit more edge on them, which sounds funny when you say it like that. The trainer is a camping and secret base fanatic and has mastered the art of setup and takedown on the go. That could be really cool. The happy camper in the party makes sure everyone's set up and prepared. Reminds me in the military, you always have that one guy you look to, and he's just like, yeah, I get the tent up, don't worry. Because he can do it in 5 minutes, but it'll take 4 people 30 minutes. So we got this one person who can bust it out, bust it down fast. Alright, let's see here. Trump card items. What are these? Oh, Z crystals and mega stones. I've been wondering if I want to use mega evolutions. If I feel like getting all the artwork for the mega evolutions. And I was also thinking about getting the doing a custom region of Pokeymanz, because one of my favorite things about a game that I'm sure a lot of people can agree with is when you play a new game, it was capturing, seeing, exploring all the new Pokemon. Admittedly, as we get older, we got spoiled, and it's really sad that obviously some people can avoid it, but someone like me who just kind of like on scene and looking at stuff was being exposed to all the new Pokemon before the game was even released, right? As they slowly get spoiled and put out there. And I used to follow the news so closely that I couldn't help it. I was curious in a different way. But I do remember growing up and seeing a Pokemon in the wild and wondering, what the hell is that? I would like to recreate that for my players. Like, wait, what is this? A small region, maybe about 78 fake mons, for the players to have that, holy crap, I've never seen that Pokemon before feeling. And also to make the region feel like its own region, which always typically introduce a set of small new Pokemon. Yeah, this is gonna be great. Alright, so the items look cool. Happy camper features. Alright, I'm gonna read over 2 of these things. I don't want to read over. Let's see the Haven. Even with enemies about or in uninhabitable environs, the trainer can find and set up a safe place, still discoverable unless hidden. Okay, so there's some layer of protection, which makes sense. You're trying to set up camp, you choose the best place to do it. Obviously, it's not guaranteed since it expresses that it's still discoverable, but 9 times out of 10, especially in minor situations, you should probably be safe. All right, let's read things adjacent to that. So protected. The base is protected by some kind of security. It is favorable terrain for the happy camper in battle, and those forcing their way in, subject to a hazard roll at -4. It's pretty steep. Hidden. Ne'er-do-wells or other troublemakers have extreme difficulty finding the site. Rolls to find it take a whopping -10 penalty, and that's pretty big. That's pretty big. I'd have to see how all of it interacts. It might be more appropriate to have a scaling over time, but I don't know. It just seem like they're supposed to be very, very powerful, so it's tough. But then I wonder, like, is this like they're supposed to get all this, or like 1 or 2 features? Oh, so it's 2 more features. Okay, so it's not like, so if you specialize, then yeah, it's definitely appropriate to be very, very potent in the thing you specialized in. We're back, taking hangout to never miss my dailies. Okay, item crafter. The trainer is an exceptional craftsperson of one sort or another. So making items and stuff. By the skin of their teeth, momentum. It never feels good to be a loser just because of bad luck. While failure exists in Pokemon to give stakes to any given action, the fact of the matter is that sometimes the dice can screw you over big time. We've all been there. This is a natural part of the tabletop RPG experience. We've all had that one session where we failed action after action and felt sidelined. Mastery exists to mitigate this, and it works to a point. The dice luck in Pokeymanz is tilted in favor of the players, and that helps to a point. For groups that find these measures to be insufficient, GMs and players can make use of a system called momentum. Using momentum when a player fails a roll, they can choose to make things more interesting for a benefit further down the line. The player can propose to treat the roll as though they had rolled Echinize, and choose or allow the GM to choose a complication to the situation. If the GM chooses the complication, the effects might not be immediately obvious. If the GM chooses to allow it, the complication occurs and the player regains his spent mastery on a Pokemon of their choice. There are some obvious caveats to this. If the GM feels there is no viable way to meaningfully complicate the situation, they may reject this bid for momentum. Likewise, if the players are just throwing around dice for fun, like in social interactions with one another, a severe complication might not make sense. There's one other way to make use of momentum. A player can choose to invoke a hindrance suffering a complication related to it, as long as it makes sense for the situation. Regaining a mastery as above. This gives hindrances a bigger, more active role in play. Okay, thoughts. In a Cyberpunk Red game I play in, we've got double or nothing. It allows you to reroll with the exceptions of critical failures. If it's a critical failure, you can't reroll. But the thing is, if your reroll is lower than your initial roll, that's the nothing side, and you suffer a severe penalty. But if it is the same or higher, then you either still fail because if you made the reroll, then the same wasn't enough. If it's higher but not a success, then the punishment isn't really there. But there is a lot of risk in that game. That game you could easily die, for example. So momentum feels like a double or nothing kind of mechanic, though it seems to always reward the mastery. So I like this. I use it in some fashion. Who needs trainers? Pokeymanz is PCs. Okay, I'm gonna skip that portion. Just because we are playing a game that's more standard with the Pokemon. So I got a lot to read. I don't want to read stuff that we're not going to utilize right now. Now, if I do a mystery dungeon campaign, which a few other folks that I'm not playing with yet have expressed interest in, then I'll probably do Pokemon as their own PCs and stuff. Alright, is this all related to that? Let me see. PC Pokemon, okay. So we'll keep going then. Pokemon Edges. Move Master. Alright, so this is for the Pokemon PC thing, so. The moveset continued. I wonder if it indicates, like, where a section begins and ends. Probably in the very beginning of the book. But I don't want to miss over anything important, but I'm trying to get over the PC Pokemon stuff. Optional systems. Okay. Yeah, I think this is raid battles is where it goes back to the normal game. Alright, raids are a type of battle encounter where a full group coordinates to take down one mighty boss Pokemon. I definitely like the idea of this. Raids are more complex. Please stop bringing Azumarill to King Gambit raids. Yeah, you know, they love their Azumarills. Raids are a type of battle encounters where a full group coordinates to take down one bossmon. Raids are more complex than many other types of battle encounters, and so it is recommended to set aside most, if not all, of a session for a raid. Very interesting. As they involve many interlocking systems that may not be appropriate for all games and are recommended mostly for groups that have a lot of fun thinking about strategic battling. Thus, why they are an optional set of rules. So how do raids differ from a regular battle for boss Pokemon? The chief difference is that players can usually only bring a single Pokemon from their party to a raid. Or this is because of an ambient power of an area preventing more than a certain number being to enter, social rules around the conduct of raids, or some other transparent excuse. The end result is that the party will not have any extra Pokemon for backup and must coordinate the battle effectively. I like this. I could also see a situation where maybe I don't label it as a raid, but I give a raid Pokemon to... Sorry, I had to sneeze. A raid Pokemon stats, however they build that out here, unless it's too strong, to an Elite Four member until the characters are at a point where they should be more of a standard battle. Alright, let's see here. We got some info. Anytime there's a lowered header with a big bold lettering up top, it's a new section. Teamwork makes the dream work is the one for raids, for example. Alright, let's see if I missed that. No, I don't think you did. Okay. Oh, that, I see what you're saying there. I was still looking at the blue, but you're talking about just the text on the white backdrop. Okay, that's awesome. That's great to know. I'm sure that was spelled out earlier, and my dumb self missed it. But yeah, but I could definitely see giving the Elite Four member like a Raidmon. Might not be massive, but just like mechanically. And that would be really, really cool. Because I want there to be a symbol of growth. I want all Pokemon to be viable. of course, I want you to be able to use your favorite Pokemon, and it could take down the Dragonite. But I also want there to be very obvious growth, and I know that does come in the side of the D6s to the D10s to the D12s. But the difference between you one gym badge and fighting the champion Cynthia or one of the Elite Four members should be very noticeable gap. So I'm okay with deploying that so that we have a Cynthia versus Paul situation where Cynthia's, I think she was using a Garchomp. I haven't watched it in a long time. Is it Garchomp? Took out his whole team, right? With the 3 wound system, it's very difficult for something like that to be recreated. Unless you use the raid Pokemon or maybe even a boss Pokemon for them, just to up the ante a little bit. But I could love that scene. Like the last time you fought this person, their one Pokemon steamrolled you, or your team only beat one of their Pokemon. Now, back and forth, bodies are going back into the balls. The fight is even. You're going to get that major sense of accomplishment, which is what we're also here for. That feeling like I've advanced, I've moved forward. And more than just the standard means, which could be really cool. All right, we got some more cool information in chat. Pokerogue actually has mechanics similar to raids here. Let me put my glasses on, guys. I am blind without my glasses. And my stream text is on my second monitor. All right, here we go. I am functionally operational. Alright, so Pokerogue actually has mechanics similar to raids here. Conversions, neither of us reference each other obviously, or there's multiple health bars and they get a boost as each one is depleted. On certain boss battles and champions, that's rival battles. Oh, come on. Okay, that's awesome. Now I'm taking... No, actually I'm just going to leave them on. Oh yeah, I'll leave my glasses on. I'm not used to wearing my glasses in the house. I'm used to just being blind when I'm home. Alright, average GMA enjoying answering questions like, what if 6-star raids had beast mode? Beast boost, oh god. Okay, so to build a raid boss, set up a normal boss Pokemon, a wild die and a number of extra wounds to begin with. Define the length of a countdown, explained in more detail below, then decide on extras. Raid bosses will often have larger move pools, as many as 8 moves to choose from, access to a trump card, complementary arena features, and may even have raid tokens and phases, which are exclusive to raids. Raid bosses can be given 3 to 5 raid tokens, which act as commentator. Oh, so they get commentator tokens that they can spend on themselves. I know it's not the intent, but I just picture like the Elite Four member or this skill trainer just monologuing like a villain. You see, that didn't work because of X, Y, and Z. If only you had I don't know, W or T. And then you're like, wait a second, I do have that. So yeah, that's funny. I just picture the monologuing, commentation to themselves and stuff. Alright, cool. So this is interesting. Final notes. So let's see the final notes on raids. Not all raids must have all the extra systems listed above. It's perfectly possible to run a raid without phases, raid tokens, trump cards, or anything fancy. Which is what I was kind of thinking, especially for like if an Elite Four member has a pseudo raid mon, as in there'll be a regular mon when you're at a level where you should be able to take them down. But yeah, that's good. GM should give out more XP than usual for raids. A good rule of thumb is 1 per participant. The harder the raid, the better the rewards. Raids are an excellent source of trump card related materials, plot important objects, rare items if using the item rules, and are unique insights into unusual phenomena. Raid bosses are also often Pokemon with unusual and unique abilities and moves. Raids are almost always, but not exclusively, held against a Pokemon that could be caught at the end of the encounter. That's really cool. But GMs are more encouraged to find workarounds in cases more than one player wants to capture that species. You can't just keep spamming the event, right? Because they're telling a more not linear. It's more story focused. It's more like the show, a little bit of the game. But things continue, right? We don't have time to shiny hunt 1 out of what it was like 3,500 chance. So it happens a little different in our games. Maybe you plug 1 or 2 in the story naturally. Maybe you do have a roll, but it's like 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 300 chance. And that could be a GM hit and roll. Like, oh snap, you guys just found a shiny Scyther. Or Gengar, even though you might not have noticed. I really do wish that more of the shinies were very dramatic. I hated when some of the shiny Pokemon were just kind of a shade lighter. Because I do think that there are some really cool looking shiny Pokemon out there. And I also remember when I was a kid and I accidentally KO'd a shiny Seedot because I didn't realize it was not the normal Seedot. And you know, I never let that go. It's been like 20 years. And I was never like much of a shiny hunter, but when I came to that realization, I was like, oh my god. I was like, I cannot believe that happened. Like, even its other forms would have been way more noticeable, but I just didn't realize that Seedot was shiny. And here's the kicker. It was the first Seedot that I found when I was playing that game. I can't remember which title it was. Whichever it was introduced in. It was like the first one I found. And I had noticed that everyone after was a little bit different. I can't remember if it was darker or lighter, but I do remember that the difference wasn't massive. And I realized, I was like, holy crap. I freaking destroyed a shiny Seedot. Yeah, exactly. It was an emotional event for me. I didn't cry right there, but I was sitting there. I was like, are you serious? I definitely felt some kind of way about that. But anyways, I'm advocating for shinies to actually be very different from standard. So, but anyways, back into this. Example raid encounters. Oh god, yeah, that's a hell of an example right there. Ooh, this is really, really cool. No one knows why this particular Lechonk could decide to start its reign of terror, nor how it managed to surround itself by a swarm of flying brethren. But a small countryside town begs the aid of the PCs to stop it. I'm not that those old Pokemon shows where, you know, Raid was secretly introduced but wasn't, with like massive Tentacruels and even that one theme park episode where I think they were machines, but I can't remember anymore. Or the Dragonite, right? The Dragonite on the lighthouse. That was technically a Raid Pokemon, but they didn't. Obviously, the designers didn't think of Raid yet. Raids didn't exist. But by today's standard, there was a Raid Dragonite in the OG series, in the lighthouse in the first season, which are all the things I want to kind of recapture in the journey that I'm going to tell with my players. Kind of fill out what they want to do, implement kind of a story that's reminiscent of the TV show, and it's gonna be fun. All right, I only have a few more minutes. I gotta go get my daughter in about 10 minutes from school. Oh, they have shadow Pokemon here. Oh god, yes. Oh my god, yes. I was talking to one of my players about potentially. He said he wanted to have a redemption arc, that he had misused Pokemon in the past. Whether he was a part of a bad team, or whether he was having his Pokemon that wanted to win battles intentionally lose battles because he was kind of like one of those setups, like a boxing match where someone throws the fight. He was the one that always threw the fight. But I had found out he didn't know about Gale of Darkness and Coliseum games. So I had told him, like, another way we could do this is maybe you, once upon a time, use Shadow Pokemon. And maybe you have a single Dark Ball or a Snag Machine that you carry with you to this day and you remember who you used to be. And it's a reminder for you. And also a little bit of an Easter egg for the other players when they see you pull out your Dark Ball or stuff like that. And I think that's really cool. And I'm happy it's spelled out in the rules because I did not get this far to page 135. My player's going to love this. We're going to be able to go full in on this. Because when I gave him that idea and I explained to him about Shadow Pokemon, he loved it. He was like, you know what? I'm not throwing fights. I'm a Shadow Pokemon catcher in the past. So I definitely want to look at that. And maybe he has a Pokemon that's been purified. I can't remember the term for when the Shadow Pokemon become the regular Pokemon again. But I think it was like purification or something like that. This is going to be really cool. So I'm going to dig into this some more later. What? The Game Master Manual? I should have started with here just so I could focus on my job, my perspective of what I need to do. Oh yeah, here we go. Purifying Shadow Pokemon. Oh man, I can't wait to talk to my player about this later. He's gonna love that this idea has some level of support in the book. All right. 3:15. I gotta get my daughter, but she's in 5 minutes. So I think I'm gonna call it here. Next time we pick up, I'll start at the game mastering section. I will talk to my players. I might be streaming my Pokeymanz experience, so that we have some Pokeymanz content on the internet of Journey, which is like a campaign, right? So that you guys can see them, go throughout the town, all this stuff, watch them challenge gym leaders, maybe do Pokemon contests, fight evil organizations, and all that good stuff. Anyways, guys, it's always fun streaming, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Take care.